Alright, so we're going to do another alcohol ink tutorial tonight, but this time I'm going to show you the actual Alicia method. I do a variation based on what I saw from what she shared in the group. I like to typically do all my colors and then add white, and then usually add another color, either the same color or a different color on top of it, and then swirl it around. Her technique is different that she shared. Maybe people did it before, I have no idea, but she shared it, so it's been lovingly dubbed the Alicia method. A-L-E-E-S-E-E-Y-A, I think. That may not be correct, but most people spell it Alicia, A-L-I-C-I-A method when they do searches. So we're going to do a whole lot of colors today because I want to do a really, really colorful one. I usually limit myself to about 4 or 5 colors, but this time we're going all out. So we've got Pinata on almost all of these. Orange, some bright yellow, passion purple, magenta. Those are all the Pinata colors. And then we're going to also do Tim Holtz Indigo, Tim Holtz Poppy Field, and Tim Holtz Botanical. I may regret doing all of these, but we're going to find out. We're also going to throw some white in the middle, which I forgot to grab. So I should grab that before we get started. I've already got a little over 20 milliliters mixed up of epoxy. I think I've been putting too much epoxy on these because I really never had trouble with my colors separating until recently, and I really think that that's the culprit. So I'm going to put it on a little less intense than I usually, or than I have been doing. The last few ink swirls I've done, I ended up with a lot of what some people will call them cells. It breaks up and it kind of looks like lace to me. I mean, it's cool, and to me it looks like a kind of a stone sediment kind of rock vibe, but most of the time that's not what I'm going for. So I'm going to see if maybe that was the problem, or if it was the temperature change that we've had since all my other alcohol inks were done in the warmer weather, and I really feel like I noticed it when the temps dropped that it changed. So I'm putting a thin layer on first. I feel like I can control and see any bald spots this way, and then I'll go through and I'll load it down. I don't want it so thick that it's literally falling off, but I also don't want it so dry that nothing moves. And once again, in this video, I will be putting my mask on when I get to the point of heating up my epoxy. Luckily, you can still hear everything I'm saying. It's just muffled. But like I said in the last ink swirl video, I'm having an allergic reaction from not doing that. It's really stupid that I wasn't using my mask, but I was really worried about the sound quality. And since it's not that bad, I just can't risk it anymore. It was really dumb, like I said. Please use precaution. I mean, these are chemicals that we're mixing up and pouring all over. Make sure you're wearing your gloves. Wear a mask if you're heating it up. Just anything you can do to protect yourself. I've definitely seen some horror stories. There's a couple of Facebook groups out there. I know of one for sure called Epoxy Is Not My Friend. That is a good resource if you're having sensitivities or if you're worried about that. There's a lot of stories of what people have gone through not taking the proper precautions. I know now too, they're starting to have a few epoxy alternatives. I've never tried any of them. I don't know how they'll hold up with wear and tear and temperature changes. I know most of the epoxy that a good bit of us are using is probably rated for, I don't know, 200-300 degrees. There are some out there that are rated for up to 500 degrees, which I guess would be good if you were trying to do like trivets, or if you lived in Texas like I do. It's probably good, because if you leave it in the car, it's a goner. I made the mistake of not educating my own dad to not leave his cup in the car and it got ruined. Within 6 months, that cup was a goner. He still uses it, just not as often. I intentionally put his name on there in huge letters so that none of the guys at work would try and steal it from him, because he was worried about that. He works for a school, so there's a lot of in and out, and a lot of guys kind of pick on him because, you know, they've worked together for 20 plus years. And I made his name in big old letters all over that thing, and I don't know. It's a goner, but not completely trashed. It just broke the seal, so he doesn't really use it. So I've got a pretty good layer there. Had a little fiber there. Got a pretty good layer on here. It's not crazy thick. Like I said, I used about 20 milliliters. I've got maybe one left. Not very much at all. So I'm just going to let that spin for a second. Working on a couple of different projects right now. I should be uploading several videos this week, which is kind of exciting. When you get a moment, please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate that, and then you get the notifications if I upload something new. It helps me out because I am trying to get to that magical subscriber number so that maybe I can make money and buy more stuff with it. So I'm going to start with the lighter color just because I'm not a huge yellow fan. So I'm just going to throw a few in here, and that way if I don't like what it looks like, I will just cover it up. We're only going to do like maybe 6 drops, and then 1 to fall down the bottom. That went about halfway down the bottom. I think it's safe to put the lid on that one for good. I really like the Pinata brand because you know what color that lid goes to, because it's all over it. Make sure you're working on a surface that is protected. I say it every video because it never fails that I have inks literally bead up and drop right off. Happens every time. That one kind of did it about halfway. I'll go a little heavier on the orange. I like that color a little bit more than the yellow. You can see that my base paint is not so great. I'm not very worried about that because we're about to cover it. I've got weird temperatures going on right now, so it's kind of hard to spray paint right here, right now. But I got enough to make the colors pop, and that's really what I care about the most. I think I'm going to go a little heavy on the indigo and the purple more than anything. I don't want this to necessarily be a rainbow cut, but I'm not opposed to it if it ends up looking that way. I like me some rainbows. I'm going to do botanical. So the first one I did was Sunbright Yellow, then I did Calabaza Orange, then I did Senorita Magenta. I want to say Margarita almost every time I say that name. So now we're doing Botanical by Tim Holtz. This one is very bright. I'll probably not go too crazy with this one right this minute because it is a little intense of a color. Whoops, some of these, I feel like the Tim Holtz come out much faster. I did a video just the other day that it got all over me. I looked like I had murdered a Smurf. It was a hot mess. You can see all over this bottle. It is just everywhere. I should be smart and put gloves on, but I don't have to go to work for the next couple of days, so I'm not real worried about it. It'll fade by the time I have to go back to work. I work with patients in an optometry clinic, and especially if I do wood grains, the last thing I need to do is working with a patient with brown stains on my hands. That looks disgusting. I wouldn't want somebody around me that had that if they were messing with my eyeballs. All right, so there's that one. So that was indigo. We're gonna do some poppy field now and see how this red pops. It's kind of a red orange. I didn't go too heavy handed on the orange itself, because this one definitely has a more red tone to it. But I think I'll invest in a red sometime soon. That's something I don't have. My bottom needs a lot more color. So I'm gonna probably get really heavy handed with the purple, since I've got plenty of room for it. This is Passion Purple. Back to Pinata. It gets all dried and gross in there. Sometimes I try and drop it when it's on the angle, because it lets it drip instead of dropping and spreading. It kind of lets it smear, so to speak. One more right there. One in the middle. See how that is kind of breaking up a little bit right there? I've had a lot of that lately. I'm not really sure what's up with that. So that is what I'm going to do there. I'm going to go ahead and put my glove back on. Put a new glove on, actually, because the other one had epoxy all over it. We're about to lift it and tilt it and all of that. Make sure your cup is on something nice and secure. I've got shelf liner in here and I've got it rolled up and real snug. So I'm going to put my mask on. Just this guy. Don't want to get it too close and get it in the epoxy again. It's just one that I got off of Amazon. If you can't find one you like, I can definitely post the link for this one. So it's going to get a little muffled now, but I'm about to heat this up so that it'll move for us. I don't want it so runny. I just want it to move for me whenever I pick it up. So the person that did the tutorial that I'm basing this particular one off of, Alicia, she calls the little swirls that these make storms. I think that's kind of a cute name for it. So I've got my white open, ready to go. So I'm going to raise the camera. Ignore my messy counter over there. So we're going to take this off of the turner. Keep an eye on gravity here. It's going, obviously not keep an eye on gravity. Keep an eye on this, because gravity will take over, and as your epoxy moves, it's going to slide off. So that's what some of these dots are, is from one of the last ones. So I've got that kind of moving just a teeny bit. The way she does hers is she tilts it maybe 45 degrees-ish. I haven't watched that video in a while. And she lets that white drip down that way. Kind of around a good several times. Let's put one on the top so it can, or on the bottom, I mean, so it can start swirling too. And we've got that. And now we're going to go the other direction, just in time to keep it from dripping off. Oops. Like I said, this one is more vertical. I like mine typically with the more color in the middle too. But I am going to go a little heavy-handed on the white, because I want it to pop really nicely. Maybe 2 or 3 more drops is all I'm going to go. I'm going to emphasize some of the ones I've already done. I think it's almost too cold in here to be doing what I want it to do. So I'm just going to heat it up a little bit more. Just turning it myself. I don't have it back on the turner, obviously. I think I'm going to add a few more bits of yellow. There's really not a lot going on there. And I'm gonna have to heat the heck out of this thing because it's so cold in here. Be careful using one of these or a torch or anything. You can scorch your epoxy. It's not pretty. I've come close, but I haven't actually scorched anything yet. I know that that day is going to come, though. I have realistic expectations about my abilities there. So while I'm doing this, I'm just going to turn it up and down. I really don't want my colors to cool yet. If I'm not careful, all the cool stuff will end up on the bottom because all the white parts will swirl down to the bottom. And it looks cool, but then you don't really get much variety there. Yeah, let's add some more pink instead of yellow. Maybe. I've got this nice and runny now. That's not opening. Let's do a different color. How about some more blue? That one's easy to open. I'm going to see if I can't manipulate that to work in the bald spots that we've got here. There's that. I'm not sure why this isn't moving. I'm going to put this back on the turner so I can take the lid off the white one. I mean off the pink one. That poppy and that calabaza orange have pretty much merged. I probably won't use those two together again. So we're just going to do this for a minute. Let's break up some of that orange there. Ooh, I don't have that on there good. I'm going to put some of that right there where it's breaking up for me too. Alright, so that's all the pink I'm going to add there. It's not quite turning out like I want it to. It's kind of frustrating. Let's do a little bit more white. But this is the gist of the concept of her tutorial here. It's just the up and down vertical movement. I did get that thing I do from her tutorial. I don't think I would have thought to take it off the turner. This keeps you from having too uniform of stripes around it. If you're not careful, you end up with stripes and not swirls. Put that back on there. Excuse me. Sorry, my allergies kind of flared up for a second today. Alright. I'm going to heat it back up again. See if we can get a little bit better movement this time. See, that white is breaking up weird like that. I don't know why my stuff is doing that. Looks cool if I wanted it to be there, but I don't really want it to be there. Kind of breaking up that white right there that time. Let's see how fast some of that sliding off now. Alright. I'm going to put this back on the turner for a minute. It's really not doing what I want it to do, movement-wise. In theory, this would be moving much nicer. I definitely have enough epoxy on here It's possible that it's just that my inks are cold. It's like 50 degrees outside. Not really what I wanted. Ooh, that's like an oil slick right there. It's like an iceberg or something. This white, for some reason, seems to almost be sitting on top of everything. It's not a mixative. I've only ever seen that happen with silver. I made the mistake of not reading the label, and it was a mixative and not an alcohol ink. I mean, it made a sweet looking cut, but I had to scrape off so much silver because it was literally floating on top and just covering up everything. I'm not happy that this is not doing. That's really cool right there. It looks like a little rainbow poking through a dark cloud or something. I'm really disappointed that this is not working like it's supposed to. This is like a whole little iceberg there. I don't know what. Look at that. It just peeled right up. We're going to take you off of there. Good gravy. Alright. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pick it all up. Something is not right. See how that is just picking up like that? It's not supposed to do that. I've never had that happen before. And it's like peeling off like paint. Ugh. I'm really frustrated with this. Alright, so this is now turning into a dab swirl, which I've done before too. One thing you can do to save a bad cut, sometimes you can just use it as a peekaboo, or you can do another ink swirl over it, which I've done that before and saved a cut from having to be stripped. Wasn't what I was going for, but it did not look bad. This is a hot mess. We might have to see what this looks like in about 10 minutes and figure out if it's going in the strip pile or not. I definitely don't feel like that was because of the amount of epoxy. Something else is going on here. I've been using the same epoxy for several weeks. I think what I might do is kind of add a little glitter swirl and then heat this up. If I can't do something there, I need to break that up just a little bit. Another thing too is if you just do a layer of ink, real fine glitter, that works too. Try not to get accidentally the same exact color all the way around one spot. All right, that's all I'm going to do for that for the moment. I'll put this back on the turner for a minute. Keep plenty of gloves handy because there are some cups that you will just go through them really fast. So let's heat this up. Get the air bubbles out that I just created from that motion. There's a lot of them. I don't know if you can see them popping or not. I feel like you can see them popping. I saw a tutorial last night of someone doing some epoxy coasters with the geode look, which I'll be doing soon. She used a lighter, which blew my mind. The torch is definitely hotter. I don't know why I'm moving it so fast. The torch is definitely hotter, and so sometimes I guess that's too hot. So she said that using the lighters, like one of the long stem barbecue lighters from the dollar store or the barbecue section, she said it was just enough to pop most of the bubbles, but not so hot that it ruined her silicone and scorched the epoxy. So I don't hate this necessarily. It is not what I was going for, which seems to be the story of my alcohol ink life lately. I do see a couple of spots of white that still are kind of hanging out, floating on top that I don't want there. Pretty cool looking. Almost like a Monet galaxy. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but right around in here where my seam is, it keeps popping up an air bubble, and basically it's in that seam around the edge of the cup. There's air in there, and if the spray paint doesn't seal it up completely, sometimes when we're doing this, it will make itself known. You just got to keep watching for it, because eventually it'll stop, because it's not coming from the inside of the cup or anything. It's just coming up from that little band of that seam, if your cups have that. I'm just kind of filling in the blanks here. Like I said, this is not what I was going for, but it looks kind of cool. I'm probably going to keep it and put it on my thing, my vendor space that I have. You never know. There's a lever out there for everything. Get that off of there. Well, so we're going to let this turn for a bit. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to keep this or not. We'll see what it looks like in the morning and go from there and decide. Kind of disappointed, but I'm not completely heartbroken about it. So we'll check back in on this tomorrow. This is what it looks like right now. See little specks of that white ink that I had to pick up. It looks actually so much cooler in person than it does on screen. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and put a top coat on it tomorrow and just see if it sells. You never know. Might float somebody's boat. So, not every fail should end up in the strip pile. That's why I'm going to go ahead and post this video, is because of that very reason. Not everything that's a fail is truly a fail just because that's not what you were going for. I've got plenty of cups that were not what I was going for, so I just went with it. And almost all of those have sold by now. So don't get discouraged if it doesn't quite turn out like you want. But there's those flecks in there. I'll probably go ahead and put a layer of, put fine glitter in my layer of epoxy that I do. But we'll see. I might just leave it be since it's got the white flecks. So stay tuned for the next video. Subscribe if you get a minute. And you'll get notifications for when I post the next failure or success. Who knows? I'm not afraid of my mistakes, so sometimes I like posting my oopses. That's why I don't edit out any of the misspeaks or oopses of my other videos. So y'all have a good one and stay tuned for the next one.